We've had the Allscripts Sunrise product for many years in our inpatient environment, and in those environments the doctor can often spend half an hour or an hour completing the documentation with lots of time and kind of the ability to do it. But in an outpatient environment, which we were just getting ready to put our system into, the time's of an essence, and so we were very focused on how many minutes every single visit took and cutting out unnecessary minutes during the outpatient stay. So when we saw Quip, we thought, here's a product not only will get us very structured data, but also a product that's very, very quick and appealing to use. So you're not wading through pages and pages of radio buttons and checkboxes. This is something the doctors could pick up and use, and within just a few minutes be done with a note, and that was one of our major objectives with this product. So our physicians come from all different areas, and oftentimes we're acquiring practices. So you have people coming in with experience of lots of different systems and lots of different ideas about how things can be done. And what was been nice with Quip is kind of unified them in their love of a documentation system. So with it being a web-based HTML system, this is something they're used to seeing, and it feels very familiar to them. And it's not cluttered up with kind of an old green screen looking system or something from 1980s kind of client server base. This is something that's very modern. It looks kind of like a Chrome browser to them, and so certainly we've had a great adoption with physicians from all different backgrounds, knowing that this feels very comfortable to them and something they're used to seeing. We had a very short time frame to make this work, 18 months from when we first purchased the software all the way to get it implemented in the first clinic. And so we couldn't spend hours and hours doing template design, hundreds of committee meetings. We wanted something that was very, very rapid prototype, that we could present a template that was really 90% done in just a few minutes sitting down with a physician. And we've been able to do that with Quip. It's quite an amazing product. We sit down with the doctors, really just 3 one-hour sessions, and we're generally ready to go. And by the third session, they're really excited. They're actually driving us through the process, which is really wonderful. And so the Quip tool and the template, the speed to build or the speed to market has really helped us out a lot. And we've accomplished that first go live in 18 months. And the next big set of clinics is just 4 months after that. So we are in a very rapid cycle. So our inpatient side of the hospital has been electronic for many years, and we've had full order entry, full documentation, but our outpatient clinics really haven't, and they've come together over the last 4 or 5 years as practices we've purchased and brought together, so we really wanted to bring them up to where the main hospital was at, and critically be able to share data between backwards and forwards, because obviously many of our patients that come in for an outpatient setting end up coming to the hospital maybe a couple of weeks later and then get seen in the outpatient areas after that. So we didn't want to have disjointed systems. We wanted one common thing, and which is being able to do with Quip. But the other thing, we're very interested in genomics, and so we've just announced a very big genomic institute, and part of genomic research is figuring out how all these bits of clinical data come together and relate to your DNA or other genomic information. So with Quip's ability to kind of categorize all those findings against the genomic database, it's given us a wonderful backdrop to begin that research. Allscripts is our primary vendor, and we picked them because they're a single database between the inpatient and outpatient. What we didn't quite think was where we wanted to be was the documentation in that product. So what we were able to find wonderfully with Allscripts' ability to be an open platform and allow us to plug in other vendors, and then the Quip product being so modern and easy to use and quick to design, we thought the marriage of the two systems together was just wonderful for what we wanted. Certainly the feedback we've been getting is great. I was actually in the resident lounge in our general pediatrics clinic about 3 months ago installing something. They didn't know who I was, putting a piece of equipment in there, and I heard one resident tell the other, we were in an epic hospital last week, and this documentation here is just so much better and easy to use. And really that's the kind of feedback that's unsolicited, just two residents talking backwards and forwards with each other. I'll give you one other quote is, I think last week our general pediatrics clinic saw 110 patients in a day, which is the most they've ever seen, by about a factor of 30 patients. They were all out by 5 o'clock in the evening. And that is a testament to how quickly the quick documentation tools allowed them to complete all the documentation. As they were gone by 5, all the documentation for the day was complete. So really great adoption, no real challenge with trying to get someone to use it. They are very, very happy to get their documentation done and finish their day off. So our physicians in the community love it because they send patients here because of our specialty knowledge, and because that documentation is done so quickly, they're not waiting 3 or 4 days for dictation and then transcription to occur. That note is ready almost the exact same moment the visit is done, so the patient's getting constant feedback. Many of our physicians do the note in front of the patient with the patient, but the providers in the community where the patient may be going back to in a couple of days already has that note that evening. So there's a very rapid turnaround, and we're not waiting days and days to get transcription done. We spent a long time debating, the idea of ripping out the physician documentation out of an EMR and replacing it with something else, and what would that mean, and how could we really pull it off? And not in the short term, because in the short term, everything looks wonderful. You see the new pretty documentation, you think that's the greatest thing ever, but long term, how is that information captured in the Quip product going to move into the Allscripts database? How will we be able to blend all this information together and use it in a cohesive way, and not just have an island of physician documentation that was different from the rest of the system? So a key advantage that we picked Allscripts back just a couple of years ago was its open development platform. And we've really leveraged that. It's an open .NET framework. It runs on all the Microsoft tools. And we can actually go into the system and program it ourselves. So we were able to go and actually embed Quip inside of SCM under the Allscripts product. And for all intents and purposes, the physicians don't know. They're in the Allscripts tool. They don't jump out to another system. They don't log in anywhere else. They literally do exactly what they do if they're on the inpatient side. It looks a little nicer, but they use that product, and then their signatures are done inside the SCM product as well. So really, it was very nicely integrated, and all because Allscripts allows this very open platform that enabled it. And as a company, they were very supportive of it. I think they were a bit unsure what we were doing at first because they want us to be successful. But once they understood, I think very supportive, and they've been here many times looking at it and learning from what we've done with the system. So when we were looking at a new EMR, physician documentation was a really important piece. I mean, especially in an outpatient environment, it has to be quick and fast and not get in the way of patient care. In our orthopedic clinic, which is just across the way there, they see nearly 80 patients a day. One physician can see nearly 80 patients a day, very, very rapid turnaround. So it had to be something that supported that. And so when we were looking for a documentation tool, we wanted it quick to develop and then quick to use. The final benefit we got with Quip that we really weren't looking for, but which has been wonderful, is all of the codification of the results. So now we can take all that data coming out of the note. The physician doesn't feel like they're filling in something for a research database later on, but they're actually just filling out their note in a very natural way. And then we get all this wonderful data behind the scenes, which is, of course, linked to Loink and SNOMED and genomics databases and all those things. So what we really wanted was a very quick template builder, if you like, or a way that we didn't even have to build templates. So the speed to market was very quick. And then when the physicians were using it, we wanted a very compact visual. We didn't want a very big long form that they would scroll down many, many pages to find checkboxes. We wanted a very tight and compact, very quick and easy to use product. And that's what we found in Quip. And really just looking in the marketplace, it's not many vendors out there selling an alternate physician documentation tool that will really integrate into an EMR. A lot of people are selling it as a separate standalone, or you have to buy a different EMR, but this was somewhat unique, is that we could plug it right into our own system and not have to rip it out. To me, success really is, the patients being treated better. And so at the end of the day, I think I mentioned to you before, we are able to see more patients in our clinic because of Quip. And that's the end of the day what makes a difference in a children's hospital. There are children who are now being cared for that couldn't. We have some clinics that have many months wait to get in the clinic, especially the specialty ones. So being able to see more patients, support the physicians better in their day-to-day work, it was really the number one benefit for us. And Vinay will tell you, our CMIO, that we have a metric where we track what time they finish clinic in the evening and how many patients they see. And we don't want doctors here till 7 or 8 o'clock at night doing dictation or transcription. We want them in the clinic taking care of the patients and not distracted with a lot of this extra work. So that was a key benefit. The overall, everything we do is, can we treat our patients better and see more of them is a number one goal. But adoption is key as well. So we couldn't have any dictation. We wanted to get rid of dictation and transcription. We didn't want the physicians falling back to that. And so far, not a single person who's used the product has ever gone to go back to dictation. So as a CIO, what would I advise other CIOs? So I think the first thing I'd advise is try and get your EMR vendor to integrate Quip into their product. It's a wonderful solution. I haven't really seen any other documentation tool that's as good as Quip and stand up against anything that's out there. And it will be easier for you. And if you're risk adverse or you don't have a programming team available to you, then the simplest way is to ask your vendor to integrate it. But if you are going to go it alone and do it what we did and kind of take that risk, the key thing is to identify just a programming resource, and I think a will inside your organization to make this happen. This isn't going to happen by sitting back and waiting for someone else to come and do it for you. You've got to take charge, and if you like a very customized environment, or you want to really own your implementation of documentation, this is a great way for you to go. You will have complete control. One of the great things we got with Quip is the ability to change the software. We added many features of our own design, which were later embedded into the product, but many things we added that were special to us, that we really needed, that we struggle sometimes, especially in a pediatric hospital. A lot of the vendors don't have the time to put pediatric features in there. So we really liked it from being able to build our own products in there. So from a CIO perspective, what I loved about it is we could get it tailored just to exactly what we wanted.